run it. Now, I'll run it through that machine if I'm prepping and it looks really wonky to me. But if I get it over here on the workbench and I'm looking at it, I'll use it. Hello, this is Henry with Woodworking by LPI, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to go over the hand planer that I mentioned in the woodshop update video, and kind of want to give you some information. So I'll let you know up front, I'm not endorsed or sponsored by DEWALT. Would love to be, but I'm not. So with the purpose of this video for this tool, I'm not sponsored or anything. So all right, we got that out of the way. Working with wood is funny in respect that we have to learn lots of things about wood. We have to learn about grains, different types of wood and species of wood, different shapes, sizes, knots, look, how's it going to come out. A lot of things to learn about wood. But when you're carving wood signs, the key is to keep your carvings flat, or as flat as much as possible as you can get, can do it. Because in the CNC video, I talked about how the bed has to be flat. Well, the wood has to be flat as well. And you can do it two ways. So you can do it by the actual planer, and I have one of those as well, but today I'm going to go over the hand planer, and that is this device right here. And you can look at a piece of wood and you can think it's flat, and in actuality it may not be. It has what I called dips in it, and you really don't notice that unless you run it through a planer. Okay, so you can run your hand over it. Some people have the sixth sense, which I don't, of running your hand over a piece of wood and figuring out that it has dips inside of it. Dips like this. And they're very subtle to the point that you just don't even notice them. So when you go to put it on the carver, or you're carving it with the router, excuse me, the letters don't carve evenly in depth. You want that consistency across your lettering, across the pictures or the outlines, or whatever you're carving on the interior of the piece of wood. You want it to have a consistency of depth. So if it has a little bit of a depth of a dip in it, when that router bit is going through, if it has a dip, when it gets over here, it's going parallel to the bed. It's not going to carve that evenly. So a flat board is a good thing. So how do you know a flat board? Well, like I said, some folks have the sixth sense on that. I don't. I've never I've never had one with regard to that. So I kind of I use a planer, I use a sander, I use a level, a square, and put it across the top of the board. There are many methods that you can do to making sure that your board is completely flat. Okay, but all right, so now you know the why. Let's get to the tool itself as to how I use it. Okay, so this is the DEWALT model DCP580B. Yeah, of course I have my handy dandy paperwork here. And I picked this up because, to be perfectly honest with you, I didn't like, after a while, continue cleaning out the bed of my big planer and doing the maintenance on the blades. It's a very good tool. I have nothing against it. It's also a DEWALT, and it's over there. But it becomes a pain. It works very well. This is just really nice because the size of the pieces of wood that I deal with, specifically the signs, 12 by 24, 12 inch by 24. Majority of the signs that I do are 12 by 24. This works so much easier as opposed to me having to run it. Now, I'll run it through that machine if I'm prepping and it looks really wonky to me. But if I get it over here on the workbench and I'm looking at it, I'll use the hand planer. I wanted to have that option. Okay, so let me give you some information with regard to this here. Okay, so first of all, it is battery powered. Okay, and the battery attachment is here in the rear. But the cool part about it is that there's multiple batteries you can use with this thing. Okay, and They use the lithium ion battery. When you purchase this here, it's roughly about $199 as of today, and this is first part of January 2021. And it doesn't include a battery. So if you have other DEWALT tools and you have the batteries, you know, well, you're dynamite. You know, you're ready to go. But it does use the lithium ion. I'm using this battery here. This is the 20 volt max lithium ion XR DEWALT. You can pick these up outside Home Depot, Lowe's. I get a lot of things through Amazon because they get things in bulk, which makes it a lot cheaper. But I'll put a link down there just for this. So if you consider looking at this, you know, these are awesome. I'm sure about the time we get used to them, you know, they'll change them and come out with something else new. Okay, so this does work on this. Okay, and it works very well. The one thing I don't like about it is that the indicator light for the battery's on the bottom. So if you're trying to figure out if your battery has any more juice to it, well, you can't see it. That's one of the downsides of it. Okay, so I'm going to take that out. It also works with the X5AH, the bigger battery, okay, for 5 hours. Okay, it works with that one as well, as you can see. And again, the indicator is on the bottom. I don't know if you could see that or not, but the indicator is way down there and it's kind of hard to see. Okay, so it works with that. And it works with the Flex Volt. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Flex Volt battery series that DEWALT has out, but it's a behemoth. Okay, and I use this on things like grinder, and sometimes my my battery powered router that I use for my wood edges, and this just lasts forever, and that's what I love about it. And I have a charging system over there that I use on this that charges up really quick. So as you can see, it also works with, you know, the big behemoth. The downside to this is the weight, okay, because, you know, it's already, this thing's already 6 pounds, 6.8 pounds. I mean, it's almost 7 pounds, so it's got a little weight to it. So unless you want to, you know, to be Arnold, unless you want to use a lot of it, a lot of planing, I don't know if I'd recommend it, but I wanted you to know that it does work with that as well. Okay, so now we know the battery system that it works with, and we'll take a peek at it. I'm looking at my paperwork here. 32,000 cuts a minute is what it claims it can do. It has a handy dandy kickstand here in the back. So when you set it on the flat surface, it can allows it to rest, and you're not setting the blades on the surface that you're setting it on. And it has the precision poly V belt drive system. Now, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see that, but that's actually right there. Okay, that runs on the outside, which drives the blades. And it says provides increased belt durability. Now, this is a fairly new tool for me, and I've not had to swap out the belt on it or do any maintenance on it yet. However, it's worked very well for me. So I'm going to go over a couple more of the items on this tool, and then I'm going to demonstrate what I use it for. And hopefully this helps you out for a compact, you know, planer system that works very well. And it you don't have to bulk around this big behemoth. Now, the behemoth works very well if you're doing larger pieces of wood, of course, but I'm looking at 12 inch by 24 inch most of the time, so this works. So let's look at what else it's got on it. It is brushless, which is really cool, because I talked to you about the routers that I use on the CNC and how the brushes sometimes can go out after about 100-150 hours. This doesn't have brushes in it, and that is a really cool thing to have, because I don't have to worry about swapping brushes out. It does adjust depth right here by using this knob. Okay, and you can go down to 0, which is typically where I use it at, because I just want to skim off the top of it. I don't want to really, you know, take a lot of depth off. But you can go up to 5/64 or 2 centimeters, depending on how you measure, of depth. Okay. And it has a edge here, a little edge piece right there. So if you're doing corners, you can cut off corners. I've never used that capability on it, but it does. So as you're cutting, if you want to get on the edge of a board and you want to take out and plane off for a beveled edge, it'll allow you to do that as well. It does have a port here for catching for dust, and this thing kicks out a lot of dust. a lot of shivers, you know, of wood. But it's worked very well. It does have a safety. If you're familiar with the grinder from DEWALT that I use considerably for my rustic edges, it has a safety switch on it as well as a circular saw, but you have to press down on this to get it to work. So that's really kind of cool, especially if you've got little ones around. You don't want them grabbing hold of this tool and hurting themselves, which is not cool. Okay, so make sure it's setting up on the thing there. So we talked about all the wonderful things with it. From my perspective, like I said, I do it if I feel dips in the wood. Okay, I don't have that sixth sense, but if you're putting your hand on a piece of wood and it's really obvious, this works really well. Okay, you can use it. I've done it. I don't always recommend it, but I've done it. If during the sign process I paint the signs black and then I sand off the black paint to leave the black paint in the lettering, you can use this to remove that paint. But I will show you here, there is a downside to that, depending on how you look at it. So as opposed to sanding, you know, you just use this planer and take it off, you know, and that way you only have a little bit of edge of paint around the outside edge to sand off, hence minimizing your sanding time. But I've done it, but I don't really recommend it. Okay, so, but, you know, I guess it would work. It does work. I have done it. I don't want to admit it, but I have done it. I don't do it all the time. No, I might do it on a rare occasion. Okay, so let me put this aside here, and I'll grab the camera here so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I have a piece of wood here, and basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the technique that I use to see whether or not a board is level or not. So if I'm really questionable as whether or not a board is level or have those dips in it, okay, I take the handy dandy pencil here, and then I'm going to draw a line. Hopefully you can see this. I'm going to draw a line all the way across. And I mentioned this in the CNC video. And as you can see, I go all the way across, and I have it held down here by a grip. And then I'm going to use the planer to go across it. Now, word of caution when it comes to using the planer on it, as you're going across the board, you need to pick up before you get to the edge. And the reason I mention that is because it'll gouge it. So in other words, it'll do fine when you start here, and it'll go across and it'll take out that path. When it gets over here, if you don't pick it up, if you don't pick up those blades, you can get it to so far, but if you don't pick up those blades before you get to that edge, it'll gouge this edge out. And that is one of the cons with regard to this tool, is that it'll gouge it out. And another con on it is, although it's doing a great job taking the planing down, it has a tendency to create waves the opposite direction. So in other words, if you're continually going over it multiple times like this, you're going to create waves this way as opposed to that way. So you really don't want to use this extensively. You kind of want to use it sparingly to create a flat surface. Okay, you kind of want to judge it, and as you do your planing, you want to do it in shifts and overlapping where you've planed. Now, if you're old school and you use some of the old planers, you know, you do by hand, it's basically the same concept. Okay, you have a blade, you know, that sticks down, and you're using your hand and you're pushing it across the would. If you've ever been into the old planers and the old timers, you know, they do a fantastic job with hand tools. Fortunately, we have these capabilities these days and take advantage of it. And it's not that I don't want to do it. It's more so from the perspective of time. Okay, and this thing will save you time. So enough about all that. I'm going to run a planer across this a couple times and show you what I'm talking about. I'll run a plane on it where it works very well, picking it up before the end, and then I'll run one that runs across the end and show you how it gouges out. Okay, so we'll get to that. Okay, so now we're going to put it together. We'll put the battery on it. Okay, first I'm going to check the battery level here. And we got 2 bars, so we should be good for the demonstration purposes. And as I mentioned, you know, you want to check that before you put that in there. Okay, and obviously you want to have your safety equipment on. I don't have it on, but you want to have your safety equipment on. And doing a dry run, what you're going to do is you're going to hold on to it here, you're going to hold on to it here, and you're going to go across it like so. Before you get to the end where those blades are, which is indicated by this dust port, you want to pick it up. Okay, make sure that's down there real tight, because if you don't and you run completely off the end, it's going to gouge that. Okay, so we'll take a run at it here real quick. Now you can run it across the end down here, that's fine. It's just the other end. Okay, so as you can see, it took a swath right here, set at the most minimum setting, and I'll see if I can get close in on that. See how it's a little closer here than it is over here? This depth is more than it is over there. Okay, so it's kind of hard not to, to keep it level as you continue to do more and take more off of it. And that's what I meant by using it sparingly. Okay, so now let me do a run and show you what it's going to do on the end. So I want to make sure you're aware of that. Hold on. So now I'm going to run across this end over here, and you'll see what I'm talking about with regard to gouging that in. I'm going to overlap the one I did before to keep a consistency across the board. Now, I don't know if you can see that. That was pretty obvious, though. And I'll put the camera down here so you can see a little closer. You see how it didn't do it here where I picked it up? But see how it gouged it right here really, really bad? Okay, now over on the other side where you started and you just went across the board, it didn't really have that problem. And by the way, see how this here is out and this is not? This is deeper than this. So that tells you there's a dip there. But as you just went straight across it on this side, it did fine. But over here, if you didn't pick it up by the time you got to the end, it just gouged it. So if you can imagine, here, let me put this back. If you can imagine cutting a wood sign, if you can, that camera just don't want to work with me today. Okay, so if you can imagine finishing a sign from carving, getting into the paint, doing all your prep work, and then you decide that you want to take off, you know, some of it, just a hair. And like I said, if you set it at the minimum setting, which is 0, that's what I was setting it on. There was nothing fancy on it. Let me take this battery out because I want to make sure we're safe. And doing all that work to gouge it at the end. Now, this gouge here is really not that bad in comparison to some I've done on my testing. It really gouges it bad. And so depending upon the wood, and I'm going cross grain. Probably shouldn't be going across grain, but I wanted to make sure we have the demonstration because this is the board that I chose. You really probably should be going with the grain, but I just wanted to show you how the device works. And in the air filtration video, yeah, dust, yeah. Okay, so if you get a chance, you want to see that air filtration box video because it'll help with that and breathing it in and all that fun stuff, because this stuff gets everywhere. The fine stuff. See the fine stuff? I mean, it's just crazy. All right. So I hope this demonstration on the hand planer, can't talk, the hand planer helped out. It is very beneficial from a sparingly perspective of leveling out your boards, and it is a very good tool. It has a couple downsides to it, but it's a very good tool. It's flexible. It uses different types of batteries that you may already have. It doesn't come with a battery, but if you already have the batteries, it already works out well. And it comes and uses, you know, the behemoth all the way down to, you know, the middle one down to the smallest one. I hope that this video helped you out with regard to helping you level out your boards in preparation for your wood sign carving and or wood sign prep. Whether you're using a router, hand carving it, a CNC, a Dremel, whatever you're using for your wood carvings. Hopefully this helped you out and seeing how you can level out the boards with a hand planer, using it sparingly, and provided you that value. Okay, this is Henry with Woodworking by LPI, and I'll see you in the next video.